Hello, welcome back to another episode of Fresh Orange, a name that will eventually grow on you. It already has grown on most of you, to be honest. If you're listening on Spotify, we finally have video on YouTube now. If you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing the video. There's no need to tell you. So anyway, this is also a test episode, I guess, and then the next one will be a final actual episode. But it will also be a fourth episode technically. So I'll have some guest over. I'm not sure who right now. I'll have someone over. So yeah, looking forward to that. Anyway, I took an Uber Moto recently, and have you ever had that moment where you're sitting at the back of their bike and you need to talk to them so that it sounds polite, like you don't want to not reply to them, but you're also in a bike and it's moving, so you can't really listen to anything. So like the conversation goes more or less like he's speaking and you're not able to listen to it, so it just goes like हाँ सही कह रहे हैं एकदम से और क्या मुसलमान बहुत बढ़ गए anyway that is a conversation I had recently, so I wanted to anyway. You're probably listening to this on Friday, and I'm extremely excited about what's going to happen tomorrow. Pumped, absolutely. So we're going to do the first edition of the movie club finally, and this is something that I've been wanting to do for ages now. I wanted to create like some form of institution or company that could function outside of me as well, and I wanted it to be about the movies. And this seems like a good first step towards it. Like eventually I will not be involved in it, and people will be conducting movie clubs in the name of the Shallow Focus Movie Club. But that's far away into the future. I'm just pumped to do this today. Tomorrow I'll meet a few of you. We'll have a nice time. I have this surprise planned, which is like a meme in the community. I have this surprise planned. If it works out, it will be pretty funny if it works out. But if it doesn't, I'll talk about it on the next episode of the podcast. I just don't want to give it away right now. So yeah, really excited about that, and really grateful for people from the collective of sorts. They've really helped put everything together, because I think right up until yesterday we didn't have a final projector yet. So Rish really pulled through. He really held out with everything. So like, shout out to them. Not that anyone's listening. If you're an artist in Delhi, or like if you're an artist in general, I would recommend checking them out and like, talking to them. So they're pretty cool people. So yeah, I have that. And then I'm pumped about October, because October is almost going to come up soon. And the last time in October, I did my first sort of backpacking trip where I went on a hike and then stayed out in the woods and didn't really stay in a hotel or anything. And that was with my brother on my birthday. Like we left on the 4th of October and then we returned on the 6th, I think. It was the Bhrigu Lake trek in Manali. So this year I'm going to do that again. The last time we were extremely underprepared and we almost like died on the trek. So this time we'll not die. I know how to do it this time. I know what to pack and stuff. The last time I had no clue how much food I have to bring, so I just packed a few like biscuits, and I thought that would be enough to. It's like dry food. How much of it can you eat? And we like ran through it in the first 6 hours, and then we would have starved to death, but we found a group that was willing to sell us their food. More on that later, because this is the same group that also prevented us from dying of hypothermia that same night. So the thing is that we were hiking up, and what we had packed was, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to pack like sleeping bags so that you can sleep in it and it's like it's warm on the inside. But we didn't know that, and we didn't have any sleeping bags back at home. So what we packed instead were thick quilts, and we thought it should be enough because it's like back home when it's really cold, we go into the blanket or the quilt, and it gets pretty hot in there. So sorry, I'm not doing well. So that should have sufficed, right? Uh, but then we reached that place. We reached like a campsite. We pitch our tents there, and we're trying to sleep. And first of all, it's raining, and it's our entire tent is wet from the inside, and then the ground is wet, on which we're sleeping, and then the blankets aren't helping at all. So we were just shivering, and the game plan was to make it through the night somehow, I guess, and then run down. But that wouldn't have worked out. So what happened was, when we were climbing up, we reached this campsite where nobody else had camped, but there was this group of like shepherds that was just temporarily living there. And they also had this makeshift dhaba there where they were selling tea and Maggie and stuff. So we stopped there. We were extremely lucky to find them, first of all, because they pitched their tents up at the actual lake, like, which was the end of the trek. But we wouldn't have made it up there. We were extremely hungry, extremely underprepared, and we were so tired, we just wanted to sleep at that point. So anyway, we found them. They had luckily come down because it was freezing up there, so that wasn't good for them. They came down. They brought their stuff with them, and they brought their horses. Two of them who had run away. Like two, there were just these two people who were just running around in the mountains finding horses. Like, how cool is that job? Imagine that on your LinkedIn. I'd spent 2 years chasing down horses. So yeah, that's a dream job. But anyway, so they sold us food, and then we pitched a tent close to them so that it just made sense, right? So the oldest one, who was like their leader, he came over to us at night and like sort of knocked on our tent. And at first I was scared because like, it's in the middle of nowhere. Are you going to kill us? Because if you don't, then the cold will. So I mean, how does it matter at that point? But he was a really good man. He was like, how are you? What arrangements do you people have right now? And we had nothing. We told them we have a blanket. It's pretty hot, and he was like, you'll die tonight. Come. So we went over to their tent. They had like a larger tent than us, and it wasn't. We had that. We had the commercial tent, and they had built their own, like, which was it. Their tent was cozy, is what I'm trying to say. And they also had a fire going. They had this fire puffer made out of like the liver of an animal or something. It was pretty cool. It looked like, if you've played Assassin's Creed, at that point I had been playing Assassin's Creed a lot, and that really felt like I was in the game itself, because those were really cool people, and they were just like, they're smoking in there, and then they're ashing and then throwing the butts of their BD in the fire itself. That's helping the fire. They were just really cool people, is what I'm trying to say. None of us will ever be that cool, and I hope to meet them again this year, right? So anyway, he gave us his sleeping bags. He had like extra for because he used to rent them out to tourists back in the day. He gave us his sleeping bags, and he made us sit by the fire for a while so that we would like melt, I guess. And then finally, when he gave us those sleeping bags, that was when we could finally get to sleep. And I mean, I don't know. Without him, I guess we would have just shivered away to death that day, that night. So yeah, that was a pretty cool experience. I hope to have that again, minus the near death experience part. Because the cool thing about backpacking is that when you're there at night, there's no light pollution, so it just looks like it's a wallpaper out of nowhere. There's just stars up there. It's freezing cold. You can't really stay out for a long time out of your tent. It's freezing cold, but like there's stars on top of you. Their tent was like 10 meters away from ours by the end, because we had also shifted closer to them. It didn't feel safe. So yeah, their tent was like 10 meters away. So you have this tent that looks like it's like pretty ancient, because they had built it themselves. It wasn't a commercial tent. So there's this tent. Then on one side of the tent, there's a horse that's just tied to the tent. Imagine a white horse under the moonlight. It's just shining at that point. And then on the other side of the tent, there's a sheep tied to it. And you would go up to the tent. Whenever you would go up to the tent, you would also you would see the sheep. You would try to pet it or something, but you would be too afraid of it. It just didn't look real at all, and it didn't look like anything I've seen at all ever since or up until then. And you're also surrounded by mountains on all sides, so it's pretty unrealistic. Like, it's insane. So I'll do that again this year. I'll take sleeping bags as well, so it will make more sense for me. Yeah, I'll probably bring my brother as well, but I mean, if he's free or not. But I'll celebrate my birthday there. That's pretty cool. I received a lot of requests from I received a lot of message requests to talk about trekking itself, because you guys are interested in how to start backpacking, or how do you take a shit while you're out in the mountains. So one of those questions I'm going to answer right now, the taking a shit part. The most majestic shit I've ever taken was on the day after that night where we almost died. So this is how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to bring tissues with you. You're supposed to bring a plastic bag, like a Ziploc one that doesn't leak anything, and then you're supposed to dig in the dirt, do your business in the plastic bag that you've placed in the dirt, and then take it away with you. Or if you don't have a plastic bag, then just cover it up with dirt and make sure it doesn't spoil the nature around you, basically, because you leave nothing and you take nothing from nature when you're on the trek. That's like a rule of backpacking. So yeah, imagine doing that, but you're also surrounded by mountains on all sides, and it's just getting to sunrise. So it's like the most majestic poop you'll ever have in your entire life, and I would highly recommend it. You are extremely anxious for the first minute of it, but after that it's out of your dreams, right out of your dreams. You should try it at least. Like, every person should at least shit in the mountains once in their entire lifetime. I promised to make this podcast about shit and piss in the first episode, and I think we're finally getting there. So yeah, try it is what I'm trying to say. There's also, apart from that, you don't really need a lot to start trekking. Just pack your bag and get up there. The first time you'll struggle a lot. You'll probably come close to dying, as we did. Hopefully not. Hopefully you'll bring some Maggie and a small gas stove with you. But it's pretty easy to figure shit out once you've done it. Just do it once, and then you'll get a hang of it, like what's to be done and stuff. And it's never that intense, because you usually have a highway right next to you. You can just always come down and go to the highway. Uh, so yeah, that's it. It's not that intense. It's not that tough to get started. Just get up there. You'll figure it out. It's not that tough. There was this one trek, which is, if you've been to Nainital, which is a pretty obscure place, Nainital has this trek, a pretty tiny trek, which is the China Peak trek. So it usually the trek starts and ends within 3.5 kilometers. But we didn't know that when we got there. So we started from the bus stand of Nainital and we trekked for like 14 kilometers or something. And by the end of it, everyone was completely gassed out by the time we reached the top. So the top was worth it, definitely. But we should have taken a taxi to like to the start of the trek and not trekked through the highways and stuff. So anyway, we get there, we get to the top. The top is beautiful. It's People say that you can see China from up there. I'm not sure if you can. I don't know how I could tell, but it looks pretty cool. You have those mountain tops that are just coming out of the clouds, and then if you're there around sunset, everything around you turns purple almost, and there's this line of the horizon that you see, which is like where purple and orange almost meet. So it it looks beautiful. Like again, nothing like I've ever seen. I'll try to find a photo if I actually have some. I'll put it up somewhere if you're watching on YouTube, if I find it. So it's the most beautiful thing you'll ever see. Go to the China Trek as well. It's pretty commercial. Like you'll see people going up throughout. What you're not supposed to do is do not come down if you're not a very large group. Like don't come down after sunset. Like try to come down before sunset, because after sunset it gets pretty creepy, because it's a commercial trek, so people are gone by the time sunset happens. So what we did was, we were just four people and we were trying to come down on our own with my phone had died, my friend's phone had died. We had two phones between the four of us. So, and we didn't have any torches as well. So that's the lesson. Always bring a torch with you when you're going out into the woods with no light. So bring a torch with you. We didn't have any, so we were using our flashlights to guide us. And we're coming down. It's a pretty well marked trail. You can't really miss any spot or anything. But it's a little away from the highway. So like you don't really see any cars, you don't hear anything. It's in the woods completely. So we are coming down. It's completely pitch black all around us. There's stars on the top, of course, because of no light pollution, no pollution. But still, it's completely pitch black going forward. So we're going there, and I was at the back of our group, and another guy was at the front. So we were just slowly descending, and suddenly we hear the bushes move, and we're terrified of it. We don't know what's happening. We're All of us, I think, were pretty sure that this is how it ends for us. So we're just, this is it, right? So we freeze in our spots, and then we're trying to decide if we should go forward, but everyone is pretty sure that we shouldn't. So we're slowly receding. But like if it's a cheetah or if it's like a whatever, I'm not sure what animals are in those forests. I'm not an animalologist. So whatever it is, if it's a lion, it's probably not a lion. But if it's something dangerous, it's probably better at chasing us uphill than we are at running uphill. So it wasn't a very well thought out plan, but the best we could do at that point was we could just move up to the top and then hope to get another party with us, so that at least there are 8 people, which might scare the animal off. We go up. We're slowly going up. We reach a point at which all of us are completely gassed out because we had already trekked 11 kilometers to the top and then a few, I think a kilometer or something downhill. We were all gassed out. None of us were particularly well trained in trekking at that point. And then the sound from the bushes gets closer to us. So it's almost like it's chasing us. So we run uphill at that point. And I am at the back of the group, so I slipped a little, getting past a step, slipped a little. We both, all four of us, reached this point in the woods where it was pretty clear we won't be able to run to the top. None of us had that in us, so our plan was to stay put. That was it. Close close all our electronic devices. Leave no light around us, and then hope that somebody else comes in. But if they don't, we'll just stay here till the morning, I guess. That was our master plan, which probably would have gotten us killed again. So I think a recurring theme in my trekking experiences is coming close to getting killed, but it's not that common. It won't happen for you, don't worry. Anyway, so the rustling gets close, right? And at that point, I have taken my friend's phone and called the police. I called them once. They answered. They were like, "Okay, we're sending someone." Nobody came for 15 minutes. Nobody called back. So now we're trying to slowly descend again. I call the police again. They're like, "Yeah, we have sent our man there," and there's nobody there. What are we supposed to do with your man if there's no one here? So anyway, we are descending, and eventually we reach a point where we're like, fuck it, if we'll die, we die. If this thing eats us, it's fine. Let's just try to get to the bottom. And so we're going down, we're slowly descending, and then we see these two silhouettes of animals dart across us, in front of us. So the four of us are walking in a line. These two animals dart from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill, in front of us. They flash, and I don't know, the silhouette wasn't of a dog and it wasn't of a deer. So it was we don't know what it was yet. It was big and it was not a dog. So anyway, we're running now. We're sort of just trying to get down the fastest we can. And then as you come closer to the end of the trail, you start hearing cars, and you see the highway and stuff. So you see the street lights. It's pretty comforting that, okay, we are in human presence again. And then once we reach the foot of the exact place where the trek starts, there's the policeman standing there. He's like, "Yeah, I was here to help you." And we're like, "What? How are you going to help us from here? What would you have done? Just dragged our bodies out in the morning? That too?" So he got angry at us for being there past 6:30 or something, which didn't even make sense because there were other parties coming down. We didn't know that there was a rule of 6:30 there. So anyway, he drags us to the police station. We get our photos taken. We were supposed to give our names and numbers. So I'm pretty sure all of us gave our fake names and fake numbers. But there's a police station in Nainital right now that has my photo with like a criminal, all four of us. So that was pretty cool. And then once that great dread was over, the second greatest dread was, what if we were published about in newspaper or something? We were all pretty young, so it seemed like maybe somebody might publish about it in the newspaper. Look at these four idiots, what they tried to do. So that was the second scariest thing, because if it reached our parents, we would die. So yeah, always bring a flashlight with you, and always, if you're going to stay overnight, just bring something warmer than a blanket. bring a proper sleeping bag is what I'm trying to tell you. And also buy a stove, like a tiny stove. I'll probably leave a link in the description if you want. You can get a tiny stove, a tiny gas cylinder, and then just cook Maggie on it so that you have hot food, because hot food is hot after some point. Hot food gets pretty important. And also start running. Like, you might need to run uphill. Who knows? So start running, start preparing for that if you want to go on a trek. When I started this out, I wasn't intending it to be the trekking episode, but still. So those were the 2 near-death experiences I had while on a trek. So yeah. Anyway. Oh yeah. I had to tell you about the Bisleri thing. I don't think we have like 5 more minutes with us. I am killing the Bisleri joke. It's way past its prime. I'm not going to repost. I'm not going to post any stories about Bisleri deepfakes, and I'm not going to post with like 4 bottles of Bisleri when I hit 40k. It started out as a nice joke. My RO had gone out back home, and so I had to buy this bottle of Bisleri, and I had just hit 10k, so I decided to pose with that bottle, and then I had to buy another bottle. But by the time I hit 20k, my RO was working again, so I had these 2 bottles at home, so I just posted with those 2 bottles, and then for 30k it just made sense to have like 3 bottles of Bisleri. Because back then I was also growing very fast. I think one of my reels, the Sylvia Plath one, had gone viral, so I was growing pretty fast. So it made sense. I had like 3 bottles of Bisleri. I'll take photos with them. But now I'll have to buy like 4 bottles of Bisleri, which doesn't really make sense. I'm not going to buy giant bottles for no reason. All of that plastic and stuff. It also doesn't make sense for me to promote the brand for no reason. Like, not that they need it. It's probably the most well-known brand in India, but still, I'm not going to, no free clout. Okay. And then finally, it's just icky. Like, I can't really be out here talking about bad business and like capitalism and stuff, and then promoting a water hoarding company in every other story or every other post. So yeah, I'm not going to do that. The Bisleri deepfakes are pretty funny. I'll admit it. I enjoyed the joke while it lasted, but it has reached its prime. For 40k, I'll just post it. I don't know. I don't know actually. Just leave a comment or something if you have any idea for the 40k post. I hope I'll hit it in a few weeks. We'll see. Yep. Okay, so I think we are done with today. I had one more thing that I wanted to talk about that I was pretty happy about, which is Baiju's downfall. But I don't think we have the time for that anymore. I'm extremely stoked that the company is falling down, the company is crumbling. I'll talk about it in the next episode now, because I spent way too much time talking about how to shit on a trek this time. But anyway, I will discuss it. I'm pretty happy about it. It's a very personal happiness as well as a like, okay, this is justice served or something. So I'll talk about it next time, if I get the time, because the next episode will probably have a guest, because it's the 4th episode. Every 4th episode I want to bring in guests, because it gets pretty boring just the 2 of us talking. Right? We need friends, I think. So we need to introduce someone else in this mix. So I'll have a guest over for every 4th episode. So the next one will be the 4th episode, in which I bring someone over. We'll have a nice chat. We'll see how it works. So yeah. Thanks for tuning in. Again, I don't know how to end this shit. I would like to thank the sponsor of today's podcast, which is me.